Community Viewpoint.
And welcome once again to Community Viewpoint. I'm John Pawlak, your host for this segment, and welcome once again to Community Viewpoint. Today's guest is someone I'm really happy I ran into, Michael Roos, who is a physician assistant for dermatology at a new office, I believe it is, Mohave Dermatology.
Right.
It's a funny thing, I drive for veterans and the RSVP, and I was driving some clients around. They went for their dermatology sessions, and I'm sitting there waiting for them. I says, maybe I should have this looked at and that looked at. And finally I got off my butt and I went to,
Right.
the rest is, that's why we're here today. So I'm so glad that I took my own advice and went in to see you and the good doctor at Mohave Dermatology. I was worried about what was on my back, which is a mole, and not so worried about what was on my nose.
Right.
But that was the issue that I should have been worried about. And if you want to tell us, well, tell us a little bit about your credentials first. You've been around this area for some time?
Yes, I've practiced dermatology for 18 years. Basically was with originally with Las Vegas Skin and Cancer and traveled with my current partner, Dr. Delotte. We served the areas of Kingman, Laughlin, Lake Havasu City, and also offices in Las Vegas. Basically, we opened this office a year ago to continue to serve this community, but I've been coming out here for 7 years with a previous practice. So I've been in the Pahrump area and a Mesquite area for 8 years.
Because I mentioned you to the director of the library, Susan Wonderly, says, I know him, he's been here. So yeah, so you've been around, and since she acknowledged you, you have a good reputation.
Right.
Excuse me. But what helped also, you have a big billboard in 160.
Right.
Yes.
Well, we definitely want to let people know we're here. We really enjoy this community. I've spent, like I said, 8 years coming out here and serving the community. Everyone here has been really great to me. They're very accepting, and we're working hard to make a practice that's more customer service oriented. Not a mill where we're running cattle through the office. We understand these are people we're dealing with. We want to get to know these people. We want to find out what's wrong with them, take care of the issues, and learn about them.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did go to another office maybe 10 years ago, and that's the feeling that I had, like being herded through like cattle. Mike is very personable, and which really helps a lot also. He's able to draw out what is really wrong with you. Tell him, I think it's really this, but I really appreciate that. And basically, you sit there in your underwear.
Sure.
And you do a complete check. You know what you're looking for more than I do, because I was worried about this.
Right.
And you showed me that after you cut it off.
Absolutely. Well, 9 times out of 10, what you'll find is that people will come in for something that's usually a benign lesion or a very simple thing that they see changing on their skin. The problem is most people don't come in because lots of offices will not really recommend full skin exams. They want to get people in and out. So what we want to do is we want to promote people getting their clothes off, checking things, because oftentimes you have a growth on your skin that's been there for years and starts to change, and you don't think much about that. The problem is that typically chronic radiation damage to these lesions is what causes changes. So very often a lesion is there for many years, then slowly starts to change, and people don't pay much attention to that. And that's what we want to do, get them fully undressed, do a full head-to-toe examination at least once a year. We would like to educate and talk about sun protection and other things in addition to doing the exams.
Right. And that's what I had on my nose, basically. That
Yes, you had basal cell cancer.
Yes, and it's a slow-growing thing.
Right. Basal cells, you have several skin cancers we deal with regularly are basal cell, squamous cell, and melanoma. Those basal cells and squamous cells are skin cells that basically, they're there all the time. Over the years, the chronic radiation damage causes damage to the genetic material of the skin, leaving it unable to stop growing. So we'll initially develop a small growth on the arm or on the hand, the ear, the nose, somewhere, and they don't always have to be what you consider to be chronically sun-exposed areas. Oftentimes these are areas that may have been when you were younger, taking your shirt off, working in the yard. So it's not always an area that's immediately obvious to someone that they've been sun damaged or damaged in that area.
I remember when I was a youngster, I was, well, I started out as a towhead, which is, you know, really blonde and
Right.
pale. My father was darker complected, and he'd take me out to the beach. He'd bring me back, and he was a little bit darker, and Johnny would come back really red and some blisters, too.
Right.
So that probably helped.
It does.
Put me where I am today.
Of course. And again, growing up, 52, and growing up, I know that we didn't grow up with sunblock. So a lot of folks out there, you know, you get a sunburn, it's gone in a week, and you don't think much about it. But it's 10 and 20 and 30 years later that a small lesion may develop. And again, it's a lesion that starts to grow, may itch or change, may grow, may scab, may be very, very slow growing, like a basal cell cancer. And basically, you don't pay much attention to it until it starts to scab or bleed repeatedly. And oftentimes people wait till things are very, very, very advanced.
Right, and what we look at and what he looks at are a lot of times two different things. What I think is really puts on the alarm bells is something that's basically can be snipped off and don't worry about it. But then you do a biopsy of that also if it's
Right.
big enough. But a friend of mine mentioned it. They saw it on my back. Said, "Ooh, I don't remember you having that last year." So that was my warning call. And but then you found what was really the problem. And Dr. Delat, is it?
Right, Dr. Delat.
He does the actual.
The Mohs surgery.
Yes.
So typically I'll do skin cancer surgeries. I treat the melanomas, I treat basal cell, squamous cell, all the skin cancers, remove moles, and we do cosmetic procedures also. But there's a specialized type of skin cancer surgery called Mohs micrographic surgery, where the lesion, once it's identified as a cancer, is then removed section by section until we make sure all the margins are clear, and that's what he does specifically for us, as well as sees any patients that are interested in seeing him. The Mohs surgery has a over 99% effective rate of getting rid of basal cell and squamous cell cancer. And when you get done with the surgery over the course of a couple of hours, we know it's all clear at that time. We close you up and send you home.
And I had to come back a couple of times also to make sure it was gone.
It was, yeah, and healing properly. We knew it was gone when we were finished with your surgery, but we wanted to make sure that the repair looked good and was healing properly and not just wait until there was a potential problem.
And I've come back already for one checkup a couple months later.
Right.
And then I'll see you in another 2 or 3 months.
Right.
Yes.
People that have had frequent sun damage, we want to make sure they're seen at least once a year for a full body exam, but periodically, depending on the amount of sun damage, the amount of history of skin cancer and whatnot, periodically, maybe every 3 months, maybe every 6 months, depending on their risk factors and their potential damage. So we want to make sure that they get taken care of properly. We don't want to wait until they have cancer just to see them.
Mm-hmm. So what are the things that we have to watch out for as we get older? Our skin gets more fragile, thin.
Absolutely.
And so what should we doing? What should we be doing? I know what my wife tells me to do. Hat, put creams on, don't go out.
Right.
But
well, ultimately, I think everyone thinks, well, now I can't go out in the sun and I can't do anything. I think ultimately what we have to do is we have to basically realize that we live in a community, especially in Pahrump and Las Vegas and Mesquite, that are high sun, high UV areas, lots of radiation. The SPF protection is very, very effective.
Is that okay?
We typically recommend at least a 30 or a 50. I'm more partial to recommending SPF 50. Mm-hmm. It basically will block 90 or 99% of the ultraviolet B rays that cause most of the skin cancers. You want to buy a product that says broad spectrum, which means it covers ultraviolet A also, which is more responsible for the thinning of the skin, the damage to the skin that causes the lines, the wrinkles, the premature photoaging that no one likes.
Yes, nobody
So
likes it.
nobody likes that. We try to talk to people about prevention because, again, it's often difficult to get back to our pre-sun damage stages. There's not enough treatment for that for some folks.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a good community for a lot of plastic surgery either. I'm sorry,
No.
I got to visualize that, everybody, plastic people. But what are the things, if you're living with someone, if you have a mate, that's the first line of defense, to have that other person look at your back.
Of course.
Yes.
You definitely want to have folks. You want to check your kids, check your spouse, and basically looking for dark pigmented moles. Typically, melanomas will occur from dark pigmented moles that are there on your skin, and then they start to change in size, shape, and color.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to look for anything that's been there and then is changing. That'll continue to change. It's not something that's just going to show up and then immediately disappear. So that's not usually the sign of a melanoma. Basically, you'd want to also look for a small growth on the face or the arms, these chronically sun-exposed areas. They're rough and crusty or scabbing, or you think you bumped it and it's bleeding, and you think, well, I scratched it. But it continues to do that over and over and over again. Those are the signs.
What about internally? Is there something we could eat, drink, to help our skin? The vitamins? The people go crazy with vitamins sometimes.
Well, typically one of the things that happens is with the radiation damage from the sun, you can have what they call oxidation damage, and antioxidants, vitamin A, C, and E are high antioxidants, so a multivitamin that's high in A, C, and E is good for that. Again, nothing prevents as well as the sunblock or covering up or being in the shade.
So the exterior things.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And don't start out being a sun worshiper. Do that later on in life. Yes. But yeah. Any other tips that we could look at that'll help us along too? What are your hours too before we?
We're typically in Pahrump Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 to 5. We were in Mesquite Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 5. I am opening up another office in Las Vegas, so we'll be spending some time there.
Okay.
But we're getting busier, but have plenty of availability, and we'll often get you in, oftentimes same day.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to put you off 2, 3, and 4 weeks.
I was surprised too, because I got in the following. I was like the middle of the week, and I was in the following Monday, so I was very grateful for that. Or Wednesday, whenever it was.
Right.
But the following week, I was in there, and before I had a chance to say, I'll put it off, which is good.
Right.
And I'm very happy, with the work both you and the doctor have done on me, for me.
Right.
And between you and what my wife tells me, I'll be taking a lot better care of my skin in the future, because it's the only skin I've got.
That's right. There's no way to replace that.
No. We don't want anything plastic on me.
That's right.
But I want to thank you again, Michael, for coming on the show. And then you'll see a lot more of Michael in the community, too, because you want to give back to the community, too. We
like to advertise. We like to get involved in the community projects and the community organization things that are going on, and the park. We were in part of the Fall Festival last year, and we enjoy that.
Okay. So thank you very much, Michael.
Appreciate it.
And Mohave Dermatology, and it's all gone. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next week.
Community Viewpoint.